What up, Neos? It's part 2 for American McGees Alice. In the last episode, Alice slept through her family dying in a fire. While she's in a coma at Rutledge Insane Asylum, she's inside her own head trying to fix everything in Wonderland. She's traveling to get to the Red Queen. At this moment, the only thing standing between Alice and the Queen is a big, huge door that requires the staff of the Jabberwock to open. The Jabberwock staff's pieces are all over the place, so Alice needs to complete some tasks to finish it. She already found one piece tooling around in a volcano. Now she's trying to find another piece by solving a war that's happening between the white chess pieces and the red ones. The red chess pieces just took the white queen, so now Alice is visiting the king to see what she needs to do. Let's pick it up from there.
Without her generalship, Red wins. We're doomed.
As am I if I can't pass through this realm. I must collect the pieces to the Jabberwock's eye staff.
Free the White Queen, Alice. That would help us both. No time. Make a frontal assault on the Red Castle. You won't face the enemy alone. Carry this soldier to the White Queen.
The Rook takes Alice to red territory. She gets to the Queen just in time to see the Queen's head separated from her body. So that sucks. Alice tries to make her escape out of the Red Castle and runs into the Red King at the drawbridge. Alice takes out the Red King and the platform shows up, granting her safe passage into the next world. Even though the king said there are no rules, once Alice gets to the other side of the land, which effectively is the other side of the chessboard, she puts the pawn down, and lo and behold, the pawn turns into a queen. Just like the rules say. So I guess just giving her a pawn was pretty helpful after all. Apparently the queen is pretty powerful because it's the queen. A lot of dudes show up, and there's about to be that realization moment where the queen just wipes out the whole army by herself. And Alice looks pretty interested in that happening, but before she or we can see anything going on, Alice gets popped upside the back of the head like a little kid getting hit with a chancla. I don't know if I can tell that joke. With black people, it's usually belts, Hot Wheels tracks, and switches from a tree. I came from a belt family. So when she wakes up, she's in a crazy steampunk asylum that has been turned sideways. No real explanation, so she heads forward. It's a crazy maze filled with fake mirrors and clocks you are supposed to destroy. The cat tells a riddle at the beginning, but I don't think it's a clue. At the beginning of the cinematic, it shows a clock breaking, and that is supposed to be your clue to break all the clocks that you see. Perhaps maybe the cat should have said something like, "Time is of the essence unless you want to leave. Then time must stop altogether." Alice gets a new Jax weapon, which is pretty cool. You see, you throw the Jax at the bad guy and bounce the ball. And as long as the ball is bouncing, the Jax will attack the enemy. So it allows you the chance to throw the Jax and then get out of the enemy's line of fire, which is great for a maze. The only problem is that it works a lot better on one enemy at a time. So if you have 2 or 3 at a time, you should hope that the Jax kill the bad guys quickly, or else they will swarm you pretty fast. You also can't really change your weapon while the ball is bouncing. Alice breaks all the clocks in the Sideways Asylum, then she makes it to the asylum rooms and destroys all the clocks there as well. You remember earlier in the plot summary where I said that this game's awkward control issues will be a problem later in the game, where the developers decide they're going to use the awkward controls to create a difficult situation? Well, now's that time. In the room after the patients get their clocks broken, there's a room where Alice's weight makes the platforms teeter-totter, which puts extra timing on Alice's jump, which is not a helpful jump. You see, you have to use the reticle in the middle of the screen and point it to the ground to determine where Alice will land when she jumps. The reticle turns into feet, you hit the jump button, and then you jump to where the feet are. So if the platforms teeter-totter, then it rushes your need to platform, and that means that you have to really quickly use the reticle to find a spot where you can jump securely. Either that or pray to the heavens and just bust a jump and hope you land in the right spot. Alice just stretches her body out and freeze frames all the way to the spot anyway. It's a horrible jump. I actually have a hard time figuring out which type of platformer these teeter-totter platforms would be good with. But here it stinks because there are bad guys on the platforms, and in order to kill them, you would have to aim your reticle at them, which of course will change Alice's orientation. The bad guys are in your path, it isn't so bad, but half of these guys are flying bad guys and they zip all over the place. Fortunately, the Jack's weapon will follow those guys around. Unfortunately, in order to use the Jack's weapon, you kind of have to stand still, and that doesn't work too well with the platforms. She makes it through there and the weird steam room with a bunch of swinging pipes. And then she finally gets to Tweedledee and Tweedledum over there.
Look, Dum, it's what's-her-name from the neurotics ward. Nurse's favorite lunatic. Oh yeah? Scrawny, ain't she? Who let her out then? They'll blame us, most like. She'll need more medicine. Strong medicine. She got anything to eat? Doubt it. She never finished as a grub at the asylum. If she had any meat on her, she'd make a delectable dish.
Despicable, grotesque and smelly louts. I'll fill your bellies all right.
In the Past Matters video in the second game, these two were actually the orderlies in the asylum she was recovering in. And she was being fed, and she took the spoon, leapt at one of them, and started stabbing him with it. And the other one ran like a chicken, and Alice tried to slit her own wrist with the spoon. And obviously, they stopped her before she made any actual headway. These two were light work with the Jacks. The Mad Hatter appears and starts telling Alice about herself.
Reliable help is so hard to find these days. Come in, my dear. You're just in time for tea.
I only take mine with friends.
Count me to be among them. Accurately. I mean, honestly, that's the truth. Oh, I quite forgot. You and the truth are not on familiar terms.
And you would know?
Truth is always bitter to those who fear it.
I fear nothing.
Fools, you fear much. A return trip to the asylum, for example. The memories that drove you there. More years in, shall we say, supervised hospitalization. Ah, yes. You fear much. Of course, all that might be avoided.
How? Tell me, what do you mean?
Of course, Alice is in nowhere place. She follows the path and ends up at a factory where they're taking the crazy orphans and jamming them into a machine to dispose of them. Jeez, what did they do to the rabbit and the mouse?
Undo us, please, from this contraption. Or you could give us tea.
Were you impolite at table? Did you slap your tea? Or talk while chewing? Confess your crime.
We've done nothing of the kind. It's the Hatter. He's gone quite mad, if I do say so.
Oh, I beg your pardon. You are in real danger. Where is your host?
The Hatter will be here at 6, sharp as clockwork. Misses no opportunity to deny us our tea. Most cruel, I'm sure. And his medicine makes me tired.
If you recall, the Past Matters excerpt mentions that Alice had been through all sorts of therapy for 8 years to try and straighten out her conditioning. And cold plaster was put on her body to irritate her, bloodletting, probably with leeches, shock treatment. They gave her laudanum, which is opium and morphine together. And I don't know why you would give someone this who is crazy already. Straitjacket, solitary confinement, sensory deprivation. taking her toy away. They even did the unthinkable in the UK of canceling her tea time. Oh no! All of which Dr. Wilson says she didn't even react to. The mouse and the rabbit, I'm assuming, are the ones that received this treatment, and Alice was protected. That would make the Mad Hatter a version of Dr. Wilson. So Alice goes looking for the Hatter to fix all of this and runs into a griffin.
What's your name, sir?
Those two seem to barely comprehend their situation.
They're blithering idiots. But the Hatter does come at 6 on the dot.
For his tea?
No. To check his cruel experiments. With gears, springs, levers, and mechanical gizzards, he seeks an impossible precision. Like a watchmaker obsessed with infinitesimal fractions of seconds, or a mathematician who tries to square the circle. He'll turn all the inhabitants into his automatons, or kill them in the attempt.
That's simply awful. 6 o'clock, you say?
6 precisely, by that clock.
Perhaps 6 comes early today.
So, oddly enough, Alice goes to the Mad Hatter's tea time table and pushes the tea bags into the water, which advances the clock to 6. In the next room, Alice finds a piece of the Jabberwock staff, and the Mad Hatter appears, just randomly. It's kind of weird. Alice strafes while throwing the jacks at him, and makes quick work of him. And that...
Oh, I killed him already. Never mind. I was about to say, look at this Mad Hatter, but his head exploded. I guess that was the right tool to use.
And that frees up the Griffin that is thankful enough to offer his services. And he also has a bunch of friends and a battle plan.
An assault on the Queen depends on breaching the gates to her kingdom. Only the Jabberwock's eye staff can pry them open. If you open the gates, I'll lead the troops to victory. Let us right the wrongs of this world together.
You know how Alice in Wonderland is. You always gotta fight the Jabberwocky.
By the way, the Mad Hatter's hat in this game, in this series, is pretty iconic. I don't know who thought of putting all the little zodiac signs on it and stuff, but man, it's a great idea. It's very slick. Very good job. The Griffin drops Alice off at the volcano hub. She heads into the cave where the voice was coming from. It was a long distance, jumping on rocks, protruding from lava, climbing mountains, and she finally gets to the end to find that the voice was the caterpillar all along.
You bizarre creature. I was beginning to like you.
He's all like, now's the time. Bust the gates open with the Jabberwock stick and beat the Queen's butt so we can all be happy. But the weapon isn't complete, so she has to face the Jabberwock to get the last piece.
What good are you to me? I'm supposed to attack this ferocious creature, but I'm not even sure this is my fight.
It's no one else's, Alice. Only you can save yourself.
Save myself? From death, is that it? Is that why I've come here? I'm not afraid to die. At times I've welcomed death.
Not death.
What then? A fate worse than death? I'm not stupid. Don't make me think you are.
Think what you will, but know this. You withdrew from your world after the fire because you could not bear your terrible loss. When you answered Rabbit's call, you began to emerge from your tragedy. Stay on this path, Alice. Save yourself, and you will save Wonderland. You will restore us all.
What I've been feeling, I am beginning to understand. I broke this world, and only I can repair it.
Go well, Alice. The Jabberwock waits. With Griffin as your partner, you have reason to hope for success. He's the strongest among us.
So now with the realization that it's her world and everyone else is a squirrel trying to get a nut, she heads up to the top of the volcano to face the Jabberwock with the Griffin.
You've kept me waiting, Alice. Have you never heard that punctuality's a virtue?
You and my dentist's assistant have much in common.
The voice actor messed this line up.
That the best you can do? Pearl's second-rate insults, they don't hurt.
The Jabberwock hears this and starts to go hard in this rap battle.
Your family was expecting you to come to them, weren't they? Perhaps they thought you might warn them of the danger, being close to the source as you were. But they waited in vain, didn't they? And died for their trouble.
We were all asleep. It was an accident.
Selfish, misbegotten, and unnatural child. You smelled the smoke, but you were in dreamland taking tea with your friends. You couldn't be bothered. Your room was protected and spared, while your family upstairs roasted in an inferno of incredible horror.
He's like, "Yo, Alice, you in dreamland in a palace, frozen. They burning to death while you dozing. Now you're sitting up here, escaped in your brain, while these doctors up in here calling you insane. It's a fair call, though, 'cause while your house was lit and your sister was screaming, you didn't do shit. How could you sleep through a house fire that wild? It's all your fault that you're the only child. Alice Liddell, like little woke, little shocked, little burnt, little fed, and your family's a little dead. Stupid." So they fight appropriately in a burning house. Alice weakens him substantially, and then the Griffin comes in like, "You're a bum!" Claws out the Jabberwock's eye. Now the weapon is complete. The Griffin relieves Alice of Jabberwock duties, and she heads to the Queen's Gate.
So it's like, this is pretty cool. He's smoking a cigar, poking at himself, waving at me.
Well, of course this is close to the end, so it's time to pad out the gameplay. And Alice enters the gates, garden maze, furnace maze, sewer puzzle. She gets out to catch the end of the fight between the Griffin and the Jabberwock, though.
Typical. How foolish you were to think you could overcome your guilt.
So Alice tries not to burn while she throws everything she has at the Jabberwock. She succeeds and...
There we go. I had to hit him once with the jacks.
You've destroyed...
Hey, the Griffin is still alive after all that?
You've destroyed her guardian, Alice, and avenged my death. Enter the ultimate battle.
Alice is reluctant to fight the Queen. She wants to try and reason with the Queen, but the Griffin assures her that the Queen is the biggest Karen in the land. You can't reason with Karens.
Do your best, Alice. You can only do your best. You can always do best.
Now it's time for the final stand. Alice gets into the palace gates to see the white chess pieces fighting in her honor. She makes her way through a narrow pathway designed to make dodging projectiles difficult. Since Alice is dependent on picking up blue crystals dropped from the killed enemies for ammo, and the path is so narrow, Alice has to rely on throwing that janky knife. Once she gets past that, Alice goes, presumably through her own brain? And she gets to the Red Palace, and right as she gets close to the Red Queen, the Cheshire Cat speaks up.
Bravery and I are not on intimate terms.
Sometimes my natural curiosity is tempered with caution, thus I've lived long. But now, ignoring my instinct to flee or fib, I speak the truth without regard to consequence. Your courage deserves no less. You've suffered great pain, and you've caused some. You've endured deep grief and feelings of guilt, but you will be tested by a more wrenching anguish, Alice. There is worse to come. You and this Red Queen cannot both survive. You are two parts of the same...
So Alice heads into the throne room to face the queen and fight for her sanity and control of her own mind.
Who am I?
Off with her head.
Alice hides behind the pillars with a peekaboo shooting strat until the queen on tentacles falls.
I rule Wonderland alone. Your interference will not be tolerated. This realm is for grown-ups.
Raw, well-ordered, ruthless, careening on the jagged edge of reality. Self-pitying dreamers are not wanted here. They cannot survive here. You fear the truth. You live in shadows. Your pathetic attempts to reclaim your sanity have failed. Retreat to the sterile safety of your self-delusions, or risk inevitable annihilation. If you destroy me, you destroy yourself. Leave now, and some hollow part of you may survive. Stay, and I will break you down. You will lose yourself forever!
Dude, what the hell is that? Anyway, Alice is ready. There is really only one strategy to bosses in this game anyway. Run around in circles, shoot until your ammo runs out, find ammo, repeat. Anyway, that was the plot summary, so here's the ending.
Did I get him this time? Yes. I think.
Okay, that was the plot summary of American McGee's Alice, a journey through the mind of Alice Liddell, dealing with the trauma of her sleeping through a house fire that killed the rest of her family. I think that it was a pretty good story. I like psychological stories. They point out that running away from our problems and trauma just turns you into a Red Queen. And for us in the real world, we have to learn how to navigate while trying to function in normal society. So we don't have the luxury of sorting out our problems in a catatonic state. But then again, not many of us lose our family in a fire we slept through. Also, BetterHelp sucks. When I tried to get some therapy with my insurance, they told me they don't accept it, so then I can't afford it. One of these days, I'll have enough money to deal with trauma privately and not have to call on my friends to help me sort shit out. Who am I kidding? Speaking of psychological journeys, if you want more, I made a Persona 3 plot summary playlist that covers the whole plot of Persona 3 plus the extra ending. And I did a review for Eternal Sonata a while back with my real face in it and everything. I am thinking about doing a plot summary of Eternal Sonata since people are starting to like it now. Until then, y'all freed me like Neo freed Agent Smith. Peace.